The MCU is the most confusing mess of movie production ever conceived on planet Earth. I don't think a single other product has had such a large impact on an entire industry only for the end result to be a bizarre mix of sadness and broken dreams. Except for maybe napalm on the industrial war complex. What started out in 2008 as a modest action movie starring a washed-up Hollywood black sheep has ballooned into a corporate monster leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. And it's not just affecting the movies, it was the linchpin of the entire online culture war that's currently being waged between the woke liberals and the conservatives. Which is basically an industry all of its own, generating millions of dollars annually for YouTubers and giant media conglomerates alike. Now, there are a lot of problems plaguing the current MCU, but I don't think most people understand them fully. I mean, almost everyone agrees that the old Marvel movies were better, but why do you think that? I mean, movies are an inherently very personal experience, so why we do and don't like something is something you kind of have to sit down and think about to fully understand, and a lot of people just don't want to do that. So when people say I like the old days with the MCU better, my only question is, do you know why? Can you put it into words? It's real easy to just say quantity over quality is the MCU's issue, but what does that even mean? What does the lack of quality look like now, and what made it so special before? Fortunately, I can tell you that, so we're going to start with the basics and look all the way back in Iron Man 1 and compare it to the Marvels. Now, before you get mad at me or whatever, I'm not going to spend this entire video bashing Brie Larson and women-led superhero movies. They're all bad now, even the ones led by white dudes. Unfortunately, the release of the Marvels is the movie that made me realize this point that I'm going to make, so sorry Brie, you're on the chopping block right now, but I promise I'll move on to other people later. So it's important to understand what made Iron Man such a big moment in the culture, and it's actually quite simple really. See, it's just because Iron Man was badass. I feel like people overlook how big this was to the overall success of the MCU. Iron Man was a great movie, but it was also quite possibly the coolest thing ever put on a movie screen. You thought Iron Man was cool, your mom thought Iron Man was cool, even Obama thought Iron Man was cool.
Basically, I'm here to announce that we're building Iron Man.
Now compare Iron Man to the Marvels. Just this first trailer is a disaster. First, they all sit around explaining the Freaky Friday gimmick the movie is using. Nick Fury says string theory. One of the characters says her powers is that she can see light. That's called seeing things. It's not a superpower. Then we get some cheap blurry green screen. Oh boy. Now I'm really excited. We get some quick action shots, and there is nothing that will catch the eye of anyone who's ever seen a superhero movie before. We see some cats, a character no one cares about go Super Saiyan, then the trailer ends on this super funny stinger of the monster cat eating some people, followed by a cut-in reaction meme.
I can't. Can you? I got it.
Now, I'm not saying this trailer is the worst thing in the world. What I am saying is that it might be cool if we sent it back to some people in the 70s maybe. You know, they'd probably think this was the greatest movie ever made if they saw it. But, you know, for me, this doesn't look very cool, and it definitely doesn't make me want to be any of the characters in the movie. See, that's a challenge that the action movie genre has to overcome. It has to make you want to be the main character. I'm going to name a list of characters that you have all probably wanted to be at one point. John Wick, Snake Plissken, Sarah Connor, Indiana Jones, Neo, Max Rockatansky, Doc Holliday.
We never got to finish.
I was just fooling about.
I wasn't.
James Bond, Ellen Ripley, Han Solo, the man with no name,
Get 3 coffins ready.
Spike Spiegel, Django,
You, Stephen. You right where you belong.
John McClane, Batman, Jack Sparrow. But when you really think about it, all of these characters are put in super shitty situations that none of us would realistically want to be in. Hunted by unkillable robot, former slave, running barefoot across glass while being shot at by terrorists at your ex-wife's Christmas party, getting your dick crushed by Mads Mikkelsen, working a 9-to-5 desk job.
On time from this day forth, or you choose to find yourself another job.
Living in Australia. So why do we want to be them? Well, it's because they're badass. They're cool, and there's always going to be a monkey part of our brain that likes cool things no matter what. Why do you think Ripley wears a cool jumpsuit and all white high tops? It's not because it's practical. It's because this shot makes you want to be a crew member on some boring ship floating through space. Almost every second of Iron Man is dedicated to showing how cool he is. Throughout the movie, he just speeds around in incomprehensibly expensive cars, convinces some hot reporter lady who hates him to bang him with only like 5 sentences, uses dual flamethrower arms, and his very presence turns soldiers into giggling schoolgirls who want a selfie with him. No one wants to be Cersei or Gilgamesh. I mean, I'd rather be Gilgamesh than Kevin the Garbage Man, but that's not like a cool power fantasy, that's just settling. The coolest thing about Gilgamesh is that he gets to hang around with Angelina Jolie all day, but she just friend zones him. He's like her caretaker. My grandma has a caretaker. Last week he left her on the roof of the nursing home in 120-degree weather and turned her into a vegetable. If you've seen this man, please contact 911. But there's more to Iron Man than just being cool. I mean, if that's all there was, I wouldn't be wasting my time making this video. He would just be another hollow piece of nothing in a cool machine. So basically a Fast and Furious character. In certain genres, being direct with the audience is very important. This is a movie about a billionaire flying around in a suit of armor. This isn't a Stanley Kubrick movie. People want a main character whose motivations and desires are easy to understand. I'm not saying to dumb it down. People like it when there's a little bit more to the movie than I have to beat you up because you're the bad guy and I'm the good guy. Iron Man's motivation is actually pretty unique. He's a guy who's woken out of his willful ignorance and realizes that he's just made the world a worse place, so he decides to spend the rest of his life trying to right that wrong. And the movie gets this across super clearly in just one scene. If the audience knows what the hero is fighting for and why they're fighting for it, it's a lot easier for them to get emotionally invested. And you don't need to be Orson Welles writing Citizen Kane, alright? Iron Man was a movie that was made on the fly with like no script. There was a Hollywood strike going on with the writers, movies were being canceled and delayed left and right, and pretty much everything that came out was awful, like Transformers 2.
The pyramid's built right over the machine.
They turned that machine on. No more sun. Not on my watch.
Jon Favreau would basically sit in his trailer every morning with the film's cast and come up with that day's script on the spot. So what I'm trying to say is, there's no excuse. Iron Man came out 16 years ago and his character and motivations are still super clear and memorable. Compare that to some of the more recent stuff the MCU is pushing out. Can someone tell me why anything is happening in Ant-Man 3?
Did
We gave
anybody
Hawkeye
ever
a
show
I don't know what
TV
it
show
is.
in the
She-Hulk.
Why
Someone
did
tell
the
me
Black
what is
Widow get a
the
movie? She's
Eternal?
when
Already
did that
dead.
come out?
I don't know nothing about Moon Knight and I watched a whole show about him. And don't even bother bringing up that flashback episode. I want to know who he is as a character, not what gave him his mental disorders. This is a mistake a lot of inexperienced writers make. They think that explaining someone's trauma is the same as character development. It is not. What I'm trying to say is that the audience isn't going to care about your character's trauma if you don't show us how and why it shaped the character they are today. I'm talking about something substantive. We get to learn about Moon Knight's trauma, but all it does is show how he got DID and explains why one of his personalities is so neurotic. But who is Stephen Grant and how does his trauma influence the decisions he makes today? I don't know, and I don't think the writers know either. But hey, he had a sad childhood. You should like him. When a story is showing you part of a character's backstory, you always need to ask yourself, why am I seeing this? And why does it matter? Tony Stark had a rough childhood. In fact, it gets hammered into your head quite often. But it's important because I understand how it affects his character. He's constantly wrestling with his unresolved feelings towards his cold and distant father, and that manifests in the decisions he makes today. Makes him feel like a real person. I'm sure some of you think I'm just being obtuse. I mean, maybe the MCU is full of memorable characters with well-defined motivations, and I'm just like pretending it doesn't so I can make this video. So I sat down and asked 3 people some questions without any preparation ahead of time. The people I asked include YouTube sensation Brandon Michael, a Canadian, and a member of the FBI's Most Wanted. The characters I asked them about get points if the 3 of them are able to consistently explain them and understand them. They lose points if the 3 of them find it unclear or have a hard time explaining things. So I got a couple questions for you. First off, do you like superheroes, Dennis?
I'm be honest, not really. No, I'm kidding. Love them.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Would you say you like superhero movies?
No.
No?
No, yeah, I do.
Yep, of course.
I like most of them.
Okay.
Okay. Can you tell me your 3 favorite MCU protagonists just off the top of your head? No side characters, no villains. Your 3 favorite MCU superhero protagonists.
Captain America.
We got Captain America. We got Iron Man.
Iron Man, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Let's go Star-Lord.
Peter Quill.
Thor.
So I gave these 3 nerds a very simple task. Tell me the motivation of the following character. Explain their motivation and reason for taking part in the plot. Be as clear and concise as possible. Iron Man.
Well, he was attacked because he was a weapons manufacturer.
He didn't want to sell military weapons anymore, and he got some shrapnel to the heart.
Well, he got kidnapped by a bunch of terrorists.
And then he kind of saw what his weapons were doing, so he was like, this needs to change.
And he realized that making weapons is not good because it affects innocent people, and he got caught in that crossfire, so that's why he became a good guy.
Captain America.
He's a short little man, and he wants to be a soldier.
I mean, he always just wanted to help people and just kind of, he wanted to do kind of something with himself, so he wanted to fight in the military, but then they just wouldn't let him.
So he joins their program, and they inject steroids into him, and he becomes a super buff Giga Chad, but he still has... The reason why they chose him was because he's a good human being.
Moon Knight.
From what I remember of the show, and remember, I watched all 8 episodes of that show. From what I remember is that the personality that we are introduced to, the one with the English accent, he gets thrown into it because the other personality is driving that forward. His wife, like the original, this is getting confusing now. The original personality's wife thought he was dead.
I think he was a part of the military or something. I couldn't tell you.
I don't know.
But then that's kind of just, I think he just kind of gets pulled into it because the other personality starts getting more involved again, from what I kind of remember, but yeah.
Shang-Chi.
So he is a valet in the beginning.
He was kind of, he was a child soldier, and he just kind of wanted a normal childhood.
He went to the States to get away from his family, and I forgot the name that oh yeah, Sean. I think he named himself Sean.
He's friends with Aquafina, and he learned. Wait, is his family? Is the Mandarin's his dad?
I don't remember the name his father actually has, but his father is the Mandarin from like the comics and all that.
And he wanted to, he wanted to be free from kind of the abusive cycle, so he left that world, but then had to come back to it for reasons.
What were the reasons, and what motivates him?
That is a good question.
The Eternals. Can you tell me anything about any of the Eternals?
No.
I have not seen that movie. I just know that Barry Keoghan's fast, I think. Oh wait, no, that's not even his character. I couldn't tell you anything.
I did not watch that movie.
The Steve Madden one wants to take over the world.
And after that, I gave them another easy question to answer. Describe their personality. Tell me what personal, non-physical attributes they have that make them a unique and memorable character.
He's intelligent, but he also doesn't care.
Genius. He's arrogant, but like he can talk the talk, and he's able to like get shit done.
He's just a charismatic asshole.
He has a big ego.
Starts as a real dickhead who sells weapons, and then throughout the movie he learns to be a little bit less of a dickhead, but not too much because he's got a lot of movies to go.
He's funny. He is smart. He is charismatic.
Selfless.
He's honorable, respectable.
Boy Scout.
Compassionate and dedicated.
Traditional.
Plays by the rules, but not if they contradict doing good. He really likes his fish, and I only watched the show one time.
Cold.
Well, you see, Moon Knight's interesting because he has dual personalities. Technically 3, as it reveals at the end of the show.
One of them's a bumbling idiot.
From what I remember, he thinks that he has like blackout events or whatever.
You got Steven, who's just British.
Wait, no, the really mean one was the third personality that we didn't see.
For some reason, the personality that has no military training or any tactical experience whatsoever also becomes a vigilante.
Oh, he's like, just like every other one, I think.
He's good at fighting.
Very bland.
He's very well trained at fighting.
Yeah, he's just like your very vanilla protagonist.
He's got a little bit of charisma, but not much. He's good at fighting.
He does have like trauma, but it doesn't like really show in his character. Like he's just one of those guys that tells like a sad backstory, but he's just a completely normal guy. Like that type of character, unfortunately.